Hello everybody, in today's video we're going to be going over some severe storms which are going to be entering parts of the central and southeastern United States. We're going to be seeing these storms head in from areas like Oklahoma, Texas, and Arkansas and make their way into parts of the Tennessee Valley. We have some chillier air up to the north. We even have a few freeze watches, freeze warnings, and frost advisories up within that area. And we're also going to be recapping what happened yesterday with all those storms through the central plains and also into the northeast and Ohio Valley. So we're going to be recapping all of that and more in today's video, so make sure you are staying tuned all the way until the end. Here's what the current National Weather Service page looks like. As you can see, we do have a few flood watches in effect for parts of Oklahoma, Arkansas, Missouri, and Kansas, as well as some freeze watches in that light blue color in parts of the Dakotas and northern Minnesota, as well as a few counties in Wisconsin. And then we have in the dark blue those freeze warnings for a little bit of northern Wisconsin, northeastern Minnesota, one county in northeastern Vermont, a couple counties in northern New Hampshire, and then also for parts of northwestern Maine and northeastern Maine. And then we have frost advisories in that medium shade of blue through parts of Maine, Vermont, and upstate New York. Other than that, we don't have many other watches or warnings currently in place. Yesterday, we had a high temperature in Rio Grande Village, Texas, where we got up to 107 degrees Fahrenheit, with a low temperature 8 miles north of Fort Rock, Oregon, where they got up to 22 degrees Fahrenheit. The high snowfall report, we didn't have any snowfall reports, so there was no technical high snowfall report. We'll have to see if we do actually get any more, because we do have a little bit of snow going up in parts of the northern Rockies, so we'll see how much snow we actually get out of those snow showers. Here's the storm reports from yesterday. In the blue is where you can see the wind reports, so those were mainly centered in the northeast. And then the hail and tornado reports, that's in the green with the hail, and the tornado reports are in the red color, so that's more centered over the central and southern plains, and especially as you get further to the west is where we had the bulk of these tornadic types of supercells. As they headed further to the east, the tornado threat really died down, and it was mostly just a wind and hail threat. But it actually was a fairly active day through these areas, and then also through the northeast. Really nothing of major significance. It was just the winds that were the main issue in the northeast, and then of course in the central plains, that was more of a hail and tornado threat within those areas. Here's what the current day one outlook looks like for the Storm Prediction Center, and you can see that we have a slight risk of severe weather for today, and that covers much of the central plains into the mid-Mississippi River Valley, and then also back through the southern plains as well. And then we have that enhanced risk which goes through parts of Missouri, Arkansas, Oklahoma, and northern Texas. So actually a fairly wide area of enhanced risk. If you look at the day two outlook, you can see that we have a couple areas of slight risk. We have one in parts of Maryland, DC, Virginia, and West Virginia, and then we have another area into parts of Texas and New Mexico, and then we have one broader area in that green shade which goes all the way up from parts of the mid-Atlantic down through parts of the Mississippi River Valley, and then into the southwest and the south central states. So it's a fairly wide area of severe storms that we're expecting, although it looks like the biggest threat is going to be for today. The storms for tomorrow should be a little less severe than what we're seeing today. So here's what the NOAA model is showing, and we're going to be playing this through. We already have a couple storms rolling through parts of Kansas, Oklahoma, and Missouri right now, and they're going to only intensify over the next few hours. So you can see we have a couple more intense bands of severe weather, which are still holding up quite well in these areas, and this would be by later today. So this is around this would be around 4 p.m. Central Time today, and you can see we have these storms rolling around. If we go to around 7 p.m. Central Time, there's still a few more storms. Most of that convective activity is actually further to the north into Missouri, Illinois, Indiana, and we could actually see some heavy rainfall in through this area. So if you live in this area, watch out for a little bit of heavy rainfall. That looks to be the biggest threat in that area. Not really the veracity of these storms and how intense they'll be, but more of just that the fact that they're gonna stay east to west in that same exact area, and it will stay over that same area for a couple hours. So we could see a few inches of rainfall. So flooding is going to be the main issue there. Here's by 10 p.m. tonight. Those storms continue to move further southeast, now crossing over into parts of Texas and Arkansas. If we head over to the southeast and kind of shift the perspective a little bit more, you can see that these storms are starting to weaken, and this would be around 1 in the morning Central Time tomorrow. And you can see that we have one line of storms right along the Arkansas-Missouri border, another one into Indiana and Kentucky, and then one more into northern Texas. But most of them are really dying out by this point. They're now going to start to head into Tennessee, especially the central and eastern part of the state, where they'll start to die out. But watch out what happens behind here, because we're going to see another line of storms right behind this line of storms, the initial one, and that's going to head further southeast, and that'll eventually impact areas into Alabama, Georgia, and the western Carolinas. So that's where we're going to be dealing with more of the severe weather threat if you live in parts of the southeast, and that would be mostly for tomorrow early afternoon. So here to be by around 10 in the morning central 10 in the morning central time, 11 in the morning eastern time on Friday or tomorrow. And you can see that we still have these storms dying out, pretty much nothing that looks too severe, but now you're going to start to see that band of heavier rainfall, which you see in central Tennessee, that starts to intensify a little bit. It's not going to be overly severe. We've definitely seen a lot worse so far this year in terms of severe weather, but it does still look like something that you want to pay attention to. So this would be by Friday evening around 4 p.m. Central Time, 5 p.m. Eastern Time. That line of storms, as it starts to head over the higher elevations of parts of northern Georgia, western North Carolina, eastern Tennessee, and that's when I think it will start to break off a little bit. And also just the fact that parts of the coastal southeast don't have as much moisture or juice to really get these storms to get to intensify a little bit more. So it's going to be areas into parts of the southeast, especially away from the coast. I would say once you get about 100 to 150 miles away from the coast is when you're going to be dealing with the best and primed atmosphere for the severe weather. So you have to get away from the coast really to get into the height of the severe weather. If we continue this on a little bit more, you can see that by very late on Friday, so around 11 p.m. Eastern Time, it's wrapping up, and we're not dealing with anything too awfully convective within these areas. Here's the total rainfall from the NOAA model, and you can see that we're expecting a couple big pockets of rainfall. The first one is going to be in through parts of Indiana and Illinois. That's where I was talking about potentially seeing a few inches of rainfall. So it looks like it's going to be maybe 3 to 5 inches in most of those areas. Nothing that's going to be too dramatic, but definitely if you're going through some of these roadways that typically do flood easily, or you're near a lake or some sort of water source, definitely just watch out for that, because we will see a little bit of elevated rainfall in those areas. Also through the Tennessee Valley, we have a stripe of 1 to 3 inches of rainfall, and that's of course because we saw these severe storms. And then also into Oklahoma and Texas, we have some of that rainfall. All of this that's up here into the mid-Atlantic and the Northeast mostly is going to come on Friday night into Saturday morning, when we're going to be dealing with a bigger storm that'll head into those areas. And as that happens, we could be seeing a few inches of rainfall here and there, but that's not really associated with any of the severe weather that we're talking about. Here's the dew points. These are also going to be quite impressive. We're dealing with dew points for later today in the southern plains, all up into the 70s. So once you get into I would say above 60, you have a decent amount, you have a decent level of dew points. And then once you're above 65 and even above 70, that's where you're getting really high up there, and that's when you can really start to see these storms develop quite nicely. So you're seeing that deep orange shade indicating we have low to mid 70 degree dew points. So that's very, very high and well above what you would typically need. So that is definitely going to help out these storms. And then if we look at for Friday, as they're heading through the Tennessee Valley and the southeast, we have dew points that are going to be into the 60s and 70s into parts of the Tennessee Valley mainly. And then also, again, what I was talking about with once you get, I would say, probably 50 to 100 miles, maybe up to 150 miles away from the coast, and you're getting very far out away from the coast, that's when you're going to start to get most of the worst of the severe weather. And you can see that highlighted right here. We have these dew points along the coast that are going to be into the mid and low 60s, and that's opposed to what we see further inland as you're getting closer to the Appalachians and then also closer to the Tennessee Valley and the Gulf states. That's where you're starting to get the dew points up into the 70s. So again, it is going to be a little bit further away from the coast where we're going to be dealing with the bulk of the severe weather, and that's just because the parameters are going to be a little bit better in those areas. If we look at the high temperatures, these are also going to help out these areas get some severe weather. As you can see, anywhere in that darker red shade, that's where you're above 85 degrees Fahrenheit, and then once you're into the gray, that's where you're 90 degrees Fahrenheit plus. So you can see that for today, we have high temperatures all above 85 and through the entire southern half of the country for the most part. So especially in the southern plains, we have warm enough temperatures to support these storms. They're hovering right in between about 83 and 87 degrees. And then as you get further to the south and west, even higher in those areas. And then if we look up for Friday, we also have very high temperatures. The highest temperatures actually are going to be in the coastal southeast for Friday. But that's going to be mostly before the storms actually occur. Then as we go into the evening hours, it'll cool down significantly. So that's why by the time the storms actually roll through, you're going to have a much weaker or you're going to have a much lower amount of warmer air available, and that should definitely help these storms weaken off a little bit. And that's going to be one of the reasons that you want to be inland if you want to see these storms roll through. Here's the CAPE values as well, and you can see we have CAPE numbers, convective available potential energy, a way of measuring the instability and also the instability and the energy in the atmosphere. And you can see that we have high amounts of CAPE all through parts of the central and southern plains, especially in areas like northern Texas, Oklahoma, western Arkansas, western Missouri. So all those areas dealing with high amounts of CAPE for today. And then if you look at for tomorrow, again, areas away from the coast is where you're going to be dealing with the most amount of CAPE. You get closer to the coast and you get pretty much on the east side of the Appalachians, and that's when the CAPE values really start to go down. In parts of the Tennessee Valley, that's where we're going to be dealing with CAPE numbers getting up between about 1,000 and about 2,500 at the most in most of those areas. So it does look like it's going to be a fairly convective day. We could be seeing a few storms, especially into that Tennessee Valley region, that break off as they head into the southeast and the coastal southeast especially. And also that first round of storms, I think that'll be the most severe of any of these storms that we're going to see as they roll through Texas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Missouri, Kansas. All of those areas could be dealing with a rather rough band of storms. So if you have any questions or you want a forecast for your area, leave a comment down below. That is going to wrap it up for today's video. So please consider liking the video, subscribing, and turning on notifications. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.